Alrighty, I am feeling a little bit led this morning to do somewhat of a recap of the past week or so, because I feel like something, I feel like I was talking last week about something's happening in TLC, and I think that same sort of movement is definitely happening within me. So I feel like I've started slowly, even more coming out of this lurk, participating a little bit differently, more or in different contexts, with a multitude of different people with different personality and perspective and times of day, and it's really starting to open up my eyes to a lot of what I think I actually came to this space to discover, which I didn't realize that's why I was drawn here, but it's starting to feel that way. So the analogy that keeps coming to mind this week for me is, or the imagery rather, as I'm walking kind of on the side of a outdoor swim pool, and I have been watching everyone play in the pool and decide I want to jump in and make a little bit of a splash, and I do a cannonball, but honestly I kind of go in a little bit too forward, and I hit my shoulder a little bit, and I'm feeling a little off kilter and embarrassed, but everyone is so busy playing in the pool that no one really noticed. But I did splash people when I entered in, and I sort of caught their attention, and there's a little bit of a whimsical smile happening my way, and I don't know what to make of it. I see the eyes, I see the curiosity, and the attention is both endearing and terrifying, because now that there is a presence of looking and being something that someone can be watching, there's a call to attending in a way that maybe is different than just purely jumping. Maybe it's jumping, but with a little bit better attention to form, because I've done it before, and I know that people will be watching, and there's an idea of playfulness that I want to inspire them to jump into, because that playfulness is what drew me in, and I want to continue to inspire that idea. And I also want to do it in a way that doesn't just absolutely terrorize the people as I enter and come down on their parade, splashing all over their stuff, ruining their game, making me the center of their game. And it's an interesting line to walk, because I'm wet now. I've gotten in. I can always get back out. I can always go out and dry off. But the attention has been caught, and so what do I do with that? And so I'm feeling this sort of responsibility. I'm feeling this sort of fear. I feel this sort of desire to do the right thing, or the best thing, or the most not shaking non-splashing thing. But I also feel the desire to make a huge splash and change the games entirely. But to perform in a way where it is guiding towards something different and better. But do I know what different and better is actually good? Does that matter? I don't know. The analogy can go probably on forever. But there seems to be a playfulness inspired in me that I'm not really sure what to do with. And I don't know if it's because as a woman, playful is like almost analogous with like ditzy or stupid or easily taken advantage of, or on the other side of that, like crass or, very unserious. Like there doesn't seem to be a respectful way to be playful in the female sphere. And so I'm sitting here sort of hesitant on how to proceed. And on Mick Mo's stream, I was, sort of given a mini rando session. And I was curious about this idea of the TLC, which I think is something that even people who've been a part of the TLC for a long time are still curious and wondering about the TLC and what it means and what the space is. And something that struck me, one, when Neil said, like, oh, it seems like you're making splashes next to different people and seeing how it goes, and that like really aligned with the analogy, and so that felt very serendipitous or had a good synchronicity with it, where it didn't seem like a pure coincidence, a little bit of a sign. The idea of trying to get something from the space, I think Nico said, like it's just like a hanging out, like and then Neil said something along the lines of, trying to get something from the space is probably not the way to think about it. And I think that this really speaks to, again, sort of this nature of I don't know what to do next without needing to understand the space first. And not that I'm saying that that's how it's supposed to be. I'm just saying that that's where my mind goes immediately. And I don't know if that's a how I grew up thing, or if that's a societal pressure thing, if that's a biologically imprinted gender role thing, if that's a story of gender role thing. But there's something about this almost needing to feel like I have a place first before like engaging, if that makes any sense. But when I was thinking about that and the way that Neil was describing it, it's like that's in in just allowing the space to be what the space is, and the people in it just to be who they are in that space, then what is meant to resonate with you and come to you will. It's this idea of allowing. And so then I feel as though I have originally entered this space because I felt like a lost sheep, and it sounded like there was lost sheep amongst the crowd in the TLC, and that was comforting. And I didn't think I was necessarily aiming or grasping for anything or wanting something specifically from it until I had that conversation yesterday, and it became almost obvious to me that I was seeking something specific, needing of something. And I think that was an idea of an acceptance of it not being purely okay and understood, and in hearing that it's okay to just be in a space and, whatever McMo says, just like, talking with the homies, chilling out. That, I feel like that hasn't been allowed. And whether that hasn't been allowed because people haven't allowed that to happen with me, or if I have been the mediator of my own mind, which obviously, and so then I feel like I can't do something without getting something specifically from it. The surrendering to what is and the moment that we're in, just it was like, God, it was like Neil took such a weight off my shoulders. I feel like I'm gonna cry. Because I think there's such a pressure to perform instead of play, to prove instead of be. And I don't know, it feels like I was seeking an acceptance of a particular, I want people to like me in this space, and I want it to feel safe for me to perform. But actually, I think what I wanted that I couldn't put into words because I was seeking from a wrong spirit was an acceptance that whatever I'm bringing is enough, and whatever I'm seeing is also enough, and that doesn't have to be a planned out, perfectly calculated and, I don't know, clear explanation or presentation. It's about getting to know the other on such a, I don't want to say like a casual level, because it feels like the way that it was presented to me, the way I felt it yesterday, it didn't feel casual. It felt like one of the most intimate ways of relating to someone, and that's like without that like agenda. Like, man, that agenda it gets you, and it keeps you in that like self-serving spiral. And I feel like so far this like I've been trying to see how I can encounter the TLC via a self-serving spiral. And as I'm actually encountering these people, it's becoming obvious that that's not the point. or ought not be the point. If I'm actually going to, quote unquote, get something from it, it's that I ought not to want to get something from it, or something like that. I don't know. I'm still figuring it out, and this feeling that I had yesterday in talking with Neil, it's like bothered me. And not bothered me in a way that I feel like the question was out of line or the presentation was out of line. It was like that I was realizing that I was looking at things through a very taker mentality mindset. And so my genuine, honest expressions were still from but I still hope I get something from this, or else, like, is it worth my time? That lie of productivity needs to be the most, and it feels like a sickness. It feels like I think that I'm trying to understand this idea of addiction because it's obsessed me for a long time, and in talking with like Chad and noticing all of these things recently via the conversations of the TLC, it feels like this addiction that I'm talking about that's inside me is not one of certain substances of the flesh, but it's like substances of the spirit. It's like it's the addiction to the stories, or the addiction to the filters, or the addiction to the expectations, the addiction to staying in that propositional conscious mind, and there's no just shooting the shit and seeing what moves you instead of trying to be moved, and instead of trying to make a movement, like allowing for that to move you. And then you actually know how the heck you're like are in the world. Like if you're trying to make a specific splash, you're not paying attention to the splash you make, if that makes sense. Because you're not in the moment of the splash. You're like in the pre and post hoc rationalizing of how to make the perfect splash. And so I have found that this worry of acceptance is from a position of not like proper intention, but almost like bad faith needing it to work out intention. Maybe. And it's surprising me, and I don't know, I'm enjoying the surprise because it feels beautiful. Like the beauty is coming from the surprise. Yeah. So that's my current reflection. And I'm looking forward to being surprised at what comes next.